Hey everybody, JC Peretz here, and today I wanted to show you a little trick that I learned about momentum. And this is something that comes up all the time. It's like, all right, JC, I know you look at price, but what are sort of some of the supplements to price that you look at? And I would have to put momentum up there with number 2, probably along with relative strength. So today, let's focus on momentum. So here's the trick. I like to use a 14-period RSI. This is the relative strength index. So when I say period, if we're looking at a weekly chart, I'm looking at a 14-week RSI. And if I'm looking at a daily chart, I'm looking at a 14-day RSI. Momentum tends to behave in certain ways when there's underlying strength in a market, let's just say a stock, and it tends to behave in certain ways when there's overhead supply and there's overwhelming amount of selling pressure in a particular name. Let's just stick with stocks for now, but this definitely applies to ETFs, commodities, currencies, major indexes, domestically and around the world. So what we want to look at is in what sort of range is momentum in this 14-period RSI? Is it in a bullish range or is it in a bearish range? That's the biggest question. And then as soon as we can recognize that, it really takes 1 second to identify which range it's in, we can immediately increase our probabilities of success by looking at this momentum indicator. So when momentum is in a bullish range and the stock is showing characteristics of underlying strength, what tends to happen is that RSI is going to get in the upper end of the range. It's going to get above 70. So RSI is what we call an oscillator because it moves from 0 to 100. So it's a momentum oscillator. 70 traditionally is overbought, 30 is traditionally oversold. So when there's underlying strength in a name, right, showing bullish characteristics, when prices make new highs, momentum is going to tend to get overbought. It's going to get above 70. That's a good thing. People are like, oh, JC, I can't buy this stock because it's overbought. I like to remind them that, an overwhelming amount of buying pressure is hardly a bad thing. We consider that a bullish characteristic. But remember, we know nothing goes straight up. So when a market is correcting within an underlying uptrend, momentum, when the stock sells off, is going to stay above 30. It's not going to get oversold. In fact, most often it's going to stay above 40. And the strongest stocks stay above 50. When a stock is in a downtrend, right, showing overwhelming amount of selling pressure, momentum is going to get oversold. It's going to get below 30 on new lows. And then when you get those counter trend rallies, those upside reactions, momentum is going to fail to get above 70. It's usually going to fail around 60. And the worst, most bearish stocks stay below 50 in the relative strength index. We use multiple time horizons. So when we're talking about a 14-week RSI, that information is going to be much more important for the overall structural picture of a stock or an index or any vehicle in question. The daily timeframes are going to be for more tactical opportunities. What's going on now? What's going on this quarter? So the idea is to use them both hand in hand, right? So if we're seeing a bullish range on the weekly time frame, and then we're seeing a bullish range on the daily time frame, man, that's a home run. We're showing an overwhelming amount of buying pressure taking place. I think a great example when it comes to this is Tesla. Look at a daily chart of Tesla going back to 2012. Notice how when it was in that sideways range, some might even argue a downtrend, momentum was in a bullish range the entire time. So when the stock finally broke out in 2013, it did so from a position of power. It had maintained a bullish range in momentum throughout 2012. So we shouldn't be surprised that Tesla went up 400% as soon as it broke out in 2013. So if you have any questions on momentum and you want to see other ways that we incorporate the relative strength index throughout our process, go to allstarcharts.com/momentum.